I kind of advertised this video as a retrospective of the show to my fellow Bird Squad fandom friend Nick Lang. We're part of the few people who really dug into the history and tidbits of Bird Squad, or La Banda Volante in its original language, and those who worked on it. But I'm curious about any creators with a substantial subscriber count who might make a video on the funny, obscure Italian animal rescue show. Jordan Fringe, Athena P, or Saber Spark. Oh no!
New cartoon crush unlocked!
If no big sub creator wants to bring light to the Avian Alliance show, I might as well do it myself. This show means something to me, man! Like, look, obviously Bird Squad had a very big appeal to me growing up, but I'll see if my info dumping will, too, make you somewhat interested and maybe even a fan. It's very much appreciated if the show gets more fans because, like what the title of this video says, Bird Squad leans into being lost media. So much so that now, most of the people who really remember or engage with the show are people who watch 2000s children's TV in Italy, and autistic nutcases like me. You know, practically adults at this point, the younger side of which is approaching the US legal drinking age. You hear that, YouTube? This video is not for kids, because how many kids today can even watch the show normally? I'll get into the specifics about the availability of this show later, but basically, so far you can't even watch the English dub that was originally available on Netflix. And there's only a few episodes of the original Italian dub uploaded by the studio that made the show on YouTube, some of which are not so great resolution. Sure, there's nearly the whole French dub uploaded by Toonflix, but there's some things about it now that hurts the viewing experience, which I'll get into soon enough. So I suggest contacting me about showing it to you if you want to watch it for yourself, preferably on Discord. There will be a link to the pinned comment to the Discord server where we talk about Bird Squad and stuff. I did post about Bird Squad in the Lost Media Wiki Discord, but it didn't really get much traction, so any support after this video would help out a lot in finally getting the English dub to resurface. Share this video with your friends, anyone who might be able to help. The progress so far is that I found this Chinese site where you can download both the Chinese and English dubs of the show, but you need an account to do that, and I can't even make one because it doesn't recognize my phone number, likely because it's not based in China. I mean, I'm not certain that this is even safe, but it's the closest I've gotten to finding the English dub. It's this method or me finally getting over my social anxiety and directly contacting the distributors of the show, MediaToon, and I'm not even sure if that's going to work. Fun fact in ostensibly Bird Squad lore, if you know anything about Winx Club's 5th season, there's the very cool 3D Sirenix transformations. An animator who worked on Stella and Techna sequences was actually involved with the animation for Bird Squad. Bird Squad walks so Winx Club post season 4 can be on life support. I don't think the Infinite Ocean Sirenix transformations are able to save season 5. But let's move away from shows with unfortunate fates and actually discuss Bird Squad, the star of this video and the embodiment of fine art. But first, who are the people responsible for the existence of peak fiction? The animator mentioned before is Chiara Pori, who took the job opportunity to work at a small independent animation studio, Toposodo, that offered work for animators like her. There's a lot of other people who worked on this show and made it to big projects later on, so have fun researching and checking them out. La Banda Volante is the studio's first original animated series in 2008, being aired on Rai Due in May of 2009 and on Rai Yo-Yo in 2011. The show is the stepping stone to his other productions like Taratabang, The World of the Melodies, which may be a show you actually recognize. After all, that show won the 2009 Pulcinella Award, and there are way more parents than people talking about it. Man, I wish Bird Squad had a channel like Taratabang English Official in all caps. Honestly, I'd love to make a video talking about Taratabang sometime. I've been so invested in my research at Toposodo, like learning about the productions that didn't make it. There's stuff like Adventure in the Universe Phone, a sketch series talking about global warming, art version of Taratabang, an alternate history adult film where Hitler won, and a film featuring rock music and rats. Which is interesting because the founders of Toposodo, Marco B. Liazzi and Fabrizio Bondi, were passionate musicians, and that shows in the handful of music-based scenes in Bird Squad. Also, Toposodo had an actual restaurant in 2012, and it sure loves onions. Thank you, Bird Squad! Unfortunately, the studio is no longer around due to Riot doing something along the lines of having a reorganization and close the tabs intended for productions. It really does suck, because there could have been more seasons to Ratsafong and Bird Squad, and Adventure in the Univerphone can finally be shown to the world! Like, did you know that Univerphone was actually going to have real mobile games based on the ones that appeared in Universe? At least the people running the WordPress blog have still been keeping in touch with commenters after that. And the YouTube channel was able to upload videos including the few full episodes of Bird Squad I mentioned. So there's only a few episodes in the original dub that were available to watch. I will get into the dubs in lost media. The last thing I saw from them was the upload of the Big Ben episode in January of 2023. But that's over a year ago, and the few fans of the show have found way more to talk about since then. Before getting deep into the discoveries, let's discuss the actual show. I like to joke about Bird Squad being Italian Octonauts on a budget. But if you think about it, that's pretty much what the show is. A team of creatures going around the world in a mobile home base and saving animals they come across. To be honest, that sounds like the standard animal rescue kids show, but here's where Bird Squad gets a little whack. Unlike Octonauts and similar shows like Wildcrats, it doesn't actually focus on scientific facts specific to the animals, and it really shows in the character designs. Its educational value comes from showcasing cultural landmarks and places around the world, and I love it when shows do that. Bird Squad also has a neat take on problem solving, as the team uses everyday things and experiences to solve the ridiculous problems they encounter. The page for the show in Toposodo's WordPress especially makes this point, where there's nothing supernatural going on. No magic wings, no Vegemals, no creature power suits, just a bit of cartoon logic and the indomitable will of a band of birds and a bat. The general format of the episodes, aside from the first few, is that the squad arrive at a location in the world in the opening bit before the theme song, where they either check it out or some problem is established. After this banger of a song, they discover more stuff and encounter a problem, or the issue gets developed upon and sometimes even has another problem added, often with an animal in trouble. The squad then sound the Octo Alert, feathers up sequence where they put their hats on and leave their airship in style. The gang would try to find a way to deal with the situation, which often doesn't end up working, and then Corky the Crow pulls out his Corvid creature power, where he remembers something and uses that idea to solve the problem. After saving the day and all that, Floyd the Flamingo says stuff about brushing your teeth, shows off his pearly whites, and then the credits roll with a human news segment on the strange events that occurred because of the squad's antics. This show has an interesting arrangement of animals that show up. Many of them are birds because, of course, rest in peace the insect and fish representation. But universally, these animals end up in weird situations for the Bird Squad to rescue them from. A few are relatively tame in concept, like a squid's tentacles being stuck in a propeller, or reindeer nearly falling to their doom from a breaking ice cliff. But there are some that are really goofy and wild, like a rhino trying to get back to Africa on a gondola, a dolphin being stuck on a tree, and most notably an elephant being stuck on the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Yes, Bird Squad predicted Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Have fun with that. I'd love to elaborate on these animals, the events that occur in the show, and the equally absurd solutions to the problems in the rescue missions. But first, we gotta know the team who does the rescuing. The Bird Squad first formed when the penguin, hummingbird, flamingo, and the ducks met a crow and collabed to escape from a burning park. After the first 10 episodes, we have 13 members of the Bird Squad in total, just like the Flame Chasers! And for reference, I will use their English names since I'm the most familiar with them. Corky is one of the leaders of the group, being practically the captain of the ship. He's like a gremlin crow version of Captain Barnacles without the polar bear strength and hates the cold. Like I mentioned before, Corky's main role is coming up with solutions based on his experiences, which is a given being a Corvid. But he's not a perfect or serious leader, as one of the gags in the show has him struggling to read maps correctly, and the first time he piloted the blimp would make Shellington proud. Nevertheless, he's right at home with his avian friend group because the humans treating him like trash because he's black! I mean, he's seen as unlucky. Good on Bird Squad to put crows in a good light. The other leader of the squad, Penny the Penguin, is more like barnacles in the sense of being disciplined and knowing what to do, as well as being a creature adapted to cold environments. She's knowledgeable in many things and actually came up with the idea of the Bird Squad at the end of episode 1. Wait a sec. Birds have wings and a squad is a group like a club? Bravo, Vince! Being a flightless bird, she doesn't go out on missions much, so she's kind of like Professor Inkling in more ways than I expected. However, when the mission involves ice or the water, she really shines, or well, becomes relevant. Penny's actually got some lore to her, as she used to be in a circus before being taken to the park enclosure. That's gotta be a troubling past if the circus tended to be hot and humid, especially for a penguin. The igloo and icy bits the park enclosure has for her is an improvement, but what were they feeding her? Like, are those seeds? No wonder she's so short for an emperor penguin. Speaking of short, we have Humphrey the Hummingbird, the smallest character in the crew and my favorite one. The way he was designed makes him look like Fly Guy. Before I discovered Minecraft chickens, Humphrey made hummingbirds my favorite animal in 2nd grade, and they're still up there. I headcanon him to be a ruby-throated hummingbird, and he's a juvenile since he doesn't have those red throat feathers yet. He's pretty much the peso with a bit of quasi of the group without the medic position, because he's cute, super fast, and is usually frightened by a lot of things, but pulls through and gets brave in times of need. There's an episode where he has an alter ego who mocks him for being a scaredy cat or a weakling or something like that, which ends up with Humphrey making pretty rash decisions there. Luckily, he has a best friend, Floyd the Flamingo, who often plays games with Humphrey for as long as they've been together in their enclosure. Floyd is, to put it bluntly, the dumbest out of the group, but he's the biggest and strongest bird out of all of them. He really enjoys playing games and is shown to like eating things. Oh yeah, you will have to keep in mind that the show doesn't really address food for the squad, so Humphrey's built different as he hasn't died from not eating nectar after a prolonged period of flying. And Floyd eats whatever and is bright pink despite flamingos getting nutrition and color from tiny stuff in the water.
What?
He does show flamingo behaviors as he usually sleeps on a filled bucket, and his hot pink colors make me think he's an American flamingo. But anyways, I grew to have Floyd be my second favorite character and currently third due to a certain character that will come up pretty soon. I think he got the Smile Dental Hygiene promotion thing at the end of nearly every episode because of the airship's advertisement for toothpaste. Also, Floyd is the mascot for my unofficial brand, Flamingo Smiles Inc., founded by me, Woody Woodpecker, Pazel Penguin, and Humphrey from my imagination in 2nd grade. It's my version of Treehouse Comics Inc. from Captain Underpants, and I will get to that later on, trust me. After the bird squad escaped from the park, they found a little bat named Nats chilling in the medical cabinet. It was quite the discovery to see a mammal that can fly, and he was first mistaken for a vampire. This little speech certainly did not help, and it scared Floyd away, but the squad added Nat to the party upon learning that he can echolocate, being a living radar as they said, to save Floyd. It'd be really cool to see Nat use his echolocation more often in the show, but alas. He's so underrated, man. Like, what a humble little guy being very polite and intending to apologize a bit. Also, I find it really funny how his glasses make him look like the Goblin Tinkerer from Element Animation's Terraria the animated series, so you guys have to live with that cursed information. He's actually good help to the squad in terms of piloting the ship at night due to him being a nocturnal animal, but he's gonna get lonely doing that, so we gotta give him a fellow nocturnal buddy. Or maiden. Emily the Owl, or Shushu in the Italian French dubs, is certainly a Bird Squad character. She was added to the party when the Bird Squad visited Paris, after being saved from being stuck to the Eiffel Tower by Cotton Candy with an elevator about to crush her. She accompanies Nat when they're night piloting, and they're pretty much a couple. Yo, Emily, you go with that strawberry build makeup set and goofy mirror you have there. She apparently has good ideas in the missions, but Corky gets the spotlight anyway. She could be a tawny owl or a little owl, but I don't think the show really cares that much. They just want an owl with excellent night vision, which always looks funny in the 2 episodes it comes up in. Speaking of eyes, Emily's eyes move unlike actual owls whose eyes are elongated and thus stay in place. You can hear her wings flapping too. Wow, I really am flexing my zoology knowledge on the 2009 children's show. You know who else flexes his knowledge? This goopy looking woodpecker named Willie, and I am absolutely not normal about him. Like, look at him!
You know who this motherfucker look like, low-key? Lord!
Bro's got an actual hourglass figure, makes these poses, and I think if Tumblr found him out, they would go wild. He fills the inventor mechanic role, therefore he's based, and slays every time he's on screen. My man is the equivalent to characters like Tweak, Aviva, and Tekna, my Giga Chat Fairy. If I watched Bird Squad and Octonauts for the first time at an older age, I think this guy and Tweak would be my favorite characters over Humphrey and Pacey. The fact that Tweak is from Florida and Willie is from England makes things even funnier. Finally, another base British person. I do find it odd that his Italian name is Picchio since he's from Britain and should have a name that sounds like it comes from there, like Jojo is from France. But whatever, Picchio sounds like Tekna and that's a plus. I can't wait to know what his English voice sounds like. So he's originally from Sherwood Forest and came to visit the Big Ben to check out the clock mechanism, which by the way is way smaller in real life. He really likes mechanics, horology, technology, and astronomy, the latter of which does not come up ever again in the show. It shines so well in an episode about Stonehenge, but I'm getting ahead of myself. He passes out from the Big Bang ringing and the Bird Squad has to come save him. Then he joins because having a mechanic is useful and based. I don't really know what species Willie is since there's only a few woodpecker species native to England, so my best guess is the green woodpecker. But I can also see him being a great spotted woodpecker. He's still freaking huge for a woodpecker though. The show's Italian Wikipedia page also says he's very skilled with physical and chemical principles. Oh my goodness!
Breaking Bad!
His Italian BA is named Walter too, so that checks out. So that's what these chemical bottles in his room are for.
This week, we need to cook.
My man's got all sorts of inventions, like this DIY radio thing, map flattener Nintendo Switch thing, and his gaming chair that he uses to launch himself out of the ship and feathers up. The way he spoke about his chair in the penultimate episode got me, like, what a departure from Tweak's attitude to her gups. I worked so hard on my gup F. All my gups are my babies, and Shellington better not touch my precious gup D. Frick you, chair, for breaking down and not working right, you pile of scrap. Also, are those Bird Squad blimp books on that table? Why do they look like that? Don't get me started on the physical formulas he somehow knows. What a speedy artist too.
And I do art and I paint and it's the worst fucking thing ever. And I hate it and I hate art and I hate me and why can't I draw right ever?
Willie is so goated he gets summoned on missions without being in the first half of the episode. I'd like to imagine him as Vilvi from Honkai Impact 3rd because there are engineering roles and I think Willie would be so into steampunk. My man's about to cook up some divine keys if he gets the resources too. As I'm talking about stylish birds that I like to assign to Honkai characters, I need to bring up Marius, the final member of the crew. I used the Italian and French name for him because in the English dub it's Marnie, but Marius sounds way cooler. I like to think of him as Eden because it just fits so well. He's formerly the pet bird and practically surrogate father of this kid named Wolfgang? I gotta get myself together. So, goofy eye human model aside, Wolfgang is a 12-year-old pianist in Vienna who was rescued at episode 10 with the help of Marius and the Bird Squad. I really like how the show pays homage to the fact that Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart had a beloved pet starling. It's also why I like pairing up music with Marius, platonically of course. Marius is a very special case of a teammate because he can actually understand human speech. When the animals speak, they sound like animals in front of humans like Wolfgang, and the humans sound like gibberish in front of the animals. This is where Marius comes in, where he can decipher the speech of humans or creatures and tell the meaning to the other party. A few episodes showcase this, like when he listens to the weather forecast on the radio to warn about an incoming sandstorm and tells the birds to escape from a driver who's pissed off about them getting into a crash. I'm actually really confused on the species Marius is because in Toposodo's official page on the show, he's meant to be an Indian blackbird, but that species isn't known for mimicking human speech. Also, according to some sources regarding the English dub, they call him an African black swallow, which I'm guessing is a translation error. Some parts of Marius's design resemble European starling coloration, but not by a lot, and they're not that associated with India. So the closest bird Marius can be is a myna, which resembles a lot more like him, is a popular talking bird, is actually kind of starling, and is commonly found in India. I can't understand the show in foreign languages very well, so this part is mainly inferences. In Marius's debut episode, before Wolfgang has to perform at the special piano concert that night, the two are wondering if Marius can be free with the birds outside. Marius cares so much for Wolfgang, as he was asking around for help when Wolfgang hasn't been at the concert yet. When the bird squad found and rescued him from the Wiener Riesenrad in the Prater, Wolfgang was very thankful to the gang and let Marius be free with them. Marius is actually a weird case of a character. We know his role in communication with humans, but he has a tendency to just disappear halfway through an episode. He just dips and gets the milk while the squad has to deal with the problem at hand for the last 3 episodes, and I have no idea why that is. Also, he and Willy interact with each other for most of the episodes they both appear in, and oh my goodness, what do I say? That Tumblr would also go crazy for him? Like, look at this design! And he's the same height as Willy, so they're kind of like a duo, like with Corky and Penny, Humphrey and Floyd, and Nat and Emily. He's seen with Willy work on his inventions, and for a few episodes, teases Willy. I am not kidding! He makes a bet with Willy about the exact time the Rhino's gondola would break. Willy loses the bet and Marius goes, haha. And I gotta show you these clips in the penultimate episode.
Les conseils d'une personne d'expérience.
Merci, mais plutôt que de conseils, c'est de silence dont j'aurais besoin. Vu?
Comme tu voudras. Dans ce cas, je vais me dégourdir les ailes. Si tu as besoin de quelqu'un pour venir te décoincer, siffle et j'accourrai.
Marius is really thinking that nature is beautiful, and that's enough. I expect a handful of fanfiction to come out after this video.
As in homosexual!
If you guys think that's weird, I totally get you. This show refuses to be normal. But you won't get a break now because we need to address the elephants on the tower.
Yuck! What's wrong? You look as if you'd seen something horrible.
I have been purposefully not talking about the ducks directly for the whole time besides that brief Saber Spark bit, and I've made it really far, but all good things must come to an end.
No! 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 No!
These freaking waterfowl are the poster child for Bird Squad on the internet for very obvious reasons that I do not like. I can't even say I fully hate the ducks, it's an appreciate-hate relationship with them. They are my least favorite part about the show, but they come in clutch in so many episodes, saving the animals from potentially dying. You just can't remove them without significantly changing the course of the show. If the ducks weren't there, Penny would die from heat stroke, Willy would be crushed to death, etc. Nevertheless, they are a curse the show has to live with. No one can ignore the spherical dump truck jiggle physics balloon bakeries that the ducks have. Almost every Feathers Up sequence, you have to see their butt cracks as they exit the ship. Every time these flabby-flabulous ducks show up when I'm streaming Bird Squad, I get so much anxiety from people judging the show and me. I would be a little more tolerable to their existence if it weren't for certain scenes in the show.
Voilà, on n'avait pas honte. Elle a perdu la tête.
What in the... was that?
Our journey to victory has begun! Death to the MPLA!
Okay, so these are the worst ones that I can think of. I could rest easy if those scenes weren't in the show in the first place. At least I haven't identified any toilet humor in the show. There's a bunch of less obvious scenes involving the ducks' butts, like visual gags of them shaking the floor when they slide down the pole, and also this one was pretty funny.
Tant que vous n'aurez pas déchargé votre cargaison envahissante. Aïe! Excuse-moi, Cathy.
But overall, they are cursed. I got a solution. You know, as they say, use the Genshin to beat the Genshin.
Hunt them down.
Here's how much the duck's reputation overshadows the rest of the show on the internet. A few people on DeviantArt have already gotten to Bird Squad, posting gifs and screenshots of the ducks because of course they did. How did they get more favorites than my art?
I wish there were plushies.
I know what you're gonna do with one if they were real. There's this dude who has hundreds of gifs of the ducks on DeviantArt, and I will not claim them. There's even a blueberry duck OC before I even got to design my own Bird Squad OC. I have not seen any duck content on Fur Affinity from my quick surf, so I guess that's a relief. But a clip of the show got posted on Twitter by Furry Found Footage, and there's an actual fetish piece of the ducks on that hell site. Please do not go search it up! But hey, who knows what other fetishes other shows have awakened too, like with octonauts and getting eaten by whale sharks, among other things. It really sucks, because ducks is all some people think of this show, besides the select few who actually gives two tips about Bird Squad from growing up with it or discovering it through other means. It's just a few of us trying to find the English dub or making stuff that isn't about the ducks. There was this one guy who said he disliked the show from when he saw one of my old Discord PFPs of Willy, aka one of the better aspects of Bird Squad. The bro outed himself as uncultured, but he said it was because of the ducks' yachts, so I can see where he's coming from. Still uncultured though. I don't know what some people on Toposodo were thinking when they made the queso ducks. Either it's meant for gags or the worst option is very obvious, and I pray that that isn't the reality. I found this French review site that's kind of like Common Sense Media, where they list what aspects of a show are good for kids and some to be wary of, including the ducks involving the ducks. Italian Wikipedia describes the ducks as obese. Okay, I am using a translation extension, so it may not be an accurate translation, but you know, this makes me very worried if this show gets more popular and it reaches the very sensitive side of those sites. Maybe we need to hold off on recommending Bird Squad to Athena P. Like, imagine her reaction to the ducks. But lovers, today on the Athena P channel, we're gonna cover the lore of this Italian TV show I've never heard of until this 3-digit subs YouTuber made a big video about it. So let's watch it. I've seen a lot of CGI kids shows. I'm liking the trippiness. Aw, the hummingbird is cute. I like the flamingo. There's actually a lot more to the ducks than being extremely heavy. For one, they're actually seen exercising and taking a bath, which you should do right now, rather than eating. The ducks also do some exercises in a bathtub they somehow got hanging from the blimp and often argue with each other. By the way, in episode 2, they were being taxonomically classed to nap for being a mammal, but they had a redemption arc and ended up respecting that. They are very capable in taking off in flight despite their weight and are considered to be acrobats, being a squad of their own. Oh my gosh, why do they look like balls? Well, I consider them to be a hive mind. There's the same model with different colors, and I couldn't glean distinct personalities between them as of me not finding the English dub yet. Some characters confuse names between the ducks, so that's a gag in the show too. It's my headcanon that the ducks were fed bread and stuff instead of healthy duck food at the park they were trapped in, so that's why they turned out this way. But you know what duck I would rather look at? Quaquavel! Okay, I gotta show you guys my Pokemon Scarlet and Violet team because yes, it is entirely possible to make a team around the Bird Squad in this game.
Okay, so here's the Pokemon party that I have for the Bird Squad. We got the ducks over here. We got the shoot, I hate Joy-Con drift so much. So here's Nat, here's Floyd, here's Corky, I got Staraptor from Marius because he's kind of like a starling, and then we got Humphrey over here. I think Oricorio is supposed to be a hummingbird. So I don't have IceQ or Empoleon because I don't got friends for me to trade it. I'm on Pokemon Scarlet, and I don't think I can find Emily in this region.
And now my escapism is over.
No. Wait.
Aside from my hive mind bias, I'll try to listen names to the ducks the best from English, French, and Chinese, the latter of which I'll just put up on the screen since I'm gonna butcher Chinese so bad. I can't really identify what names in the Italian dub belong to which duck with the little episodes we have in Italian right now. The mallard one is Diana and Caroline, more on her in a bit. The one with the black head and pink beak is Dawn and Karine. The blue one is Dolores or Doris and Katy. The white one is Daphne and Capucine. And the red one is Deborah and Camille. If you know anything about duck biology, male mallards are green, just like homegirl Diana. I know this is obviously a case of kids' cartoons featuring animals getting away with ignoring sexual dimorphism, like a barnyard moment, but holy moly, is that accidental trans representation an obscure 2000 CGI children's show?
Hello? Base department?
Take that, Hygaria Spice! I can't believe Bird Squad invented queer people! But honestly, I would take Quasi over Diana. There's only so much duck yacht I can handle.
So you're trans! You must really hate your body, huh? Ah! New crispy pretzel chicken fries at Burger King.
After all my Toposodo digging, I still don't know why there's only a few episodes to the Italian dub posted by the channel. In fact, they're labeled out of order, and of course there's a weird resolution thing going on. Maybe the people still running the channel only have a few episodes on them and are uploading what they could find, which could explain the few years gap between some of the uploads and inconsistent video quality. Or if they do have all the episodes on them, I'm not sure what's stopping them from putting all of them out there. Apparently some full episodes were on Rai websites, but 1, they were in pretty low quality, 2, you can't access the sites anymore. I mentioned before that the Italian dub aired on the Rai Due and Rai Yo-Yo channels, and I actually did see a recording of a Rai Yo-Yo bumper featuring Bird Squad, but the YouTube video of it got deleted before I could save it. The Italian dub honestly sounds harder to find than the English one, and I really hope MediaToon has this thing so we actually have a chance to find the authentic La Banda Volante experience. Thankfully, there's reels from some of the animators that contain the Italian dub audio, so we have snippets of what parts of other episodes sounded like, not to mention clips of other episodes on the main channel. I'ma review this dub real quick. Most of the voices are fitting for the characters. Floyd sounds deep like a strong but ditzy flamingo. Corky sounds like a wandering crow just getting a hold on being a leader. Penny being more mature, and Willie sounds like himself. I love him. He wasn't featured in any of the reels I could find, so the Big Ben episode drop in early 2023 was such a blessing for me because I could finally hear his voice. And Marius's voice is divine. Bless the reels that saved his presence. The main thing I don't feel the greatest about is Humphrey's voice. Not dissing the voice actor, but other dubs gave me a better impression that this little hummingbird is a little guy rather than someone doing a high voice. Case in point, the French dub, known as La Banda Volante.
Le fiche au kérosène.
I wish I understood French, but even if I can't understand everything the characters say, it's also a good dub to listen to. Humphrey genuinely sounds like a young hummingbird boy, voice cracks and all. Corky's a bit different from his Italian voice, as he sounds more confident. This dub does Willie so much justice too. Absolute diva. The girls are really solid too, like, okay, wow, show. The ducks actually got multiple VAs unlike the other dubs, which is interesting to think about. Floyd honestly sounds like an old man in this dub. Definitely not as deep a voice as in the Italian dub. And then with Marius, he also sounds like an old man going through puberty, like this. By the way, this dub gets so extra with the sounds the characters make. Not sure what TV channel in France it aired on, but it was on Yuba for those living in Canada, so maybe you French Canadians like Mictop might recognize it. Now, the playlist of it by Toonflix on YouTube used to be the most ideal way to watch this show. It had almost all the episodes in full except for one, the 17th episode, which is privated for some reason. They probably forgot to make this one public, but like, gee, I hope there's nothing racist in that episode for it to be privated like that. Hey guys, I really wanted to make that bit. It came up with it before there was a really big finding. A Persian dub with all of the episodes of Bird Squad. I will get to it in a bit, but basically I finally managed to see the missing episode in full, which is the Barcelona episode where the ducks race with the seagulls. And I saw nothing offensive or anything that would warrant this episode getting privated or removed. Hopefully whoever runs the Toonflix channel can be contacted so this episode can finally be made public in French. Back to the video. Also, for some reason, all the French dub videos on YouTube have this weird darkness filter over them, which was not the case before. Even the Precise Seeking previews are in normal colors. Hello? Something similar is up with the official Winx Club channel's individual uploads of Season 2, and the Precise Seeking preview actually reflects the darkness filter, so I don't know what's going on anymore. This filter makes it so annoying to watch Bird Squad on YouTube. It's so bad you can barely see the characters in dark environments, like in the inside of the ship.
Hey gamers!
I saw the Sandstorm episode being the first one to be affected and saved all of the episodes before they got subjected to the darkness too. But there was nothing I could do to get the Sandstorm episode in its original state without some editing. These episodes are safe and sound on my PC though, so I can stream them to people on Discord if they want. There's other things that bother me about this dub's uploads, like the video being slightly squashed, which makes this black bar on the top. Also, even in the normal colors, the videos look a bit darker and saturated than in the Italian uploads. I noticed details, if you haven't guessed already. Not sure if this next issue is on Toonflix's end, or that's actually how it is in the French dub. The latter of which should not be the case because that's really unprofessional. The voices are fine, but the background music and sound effects have this double effect in some episodes. Like, listen to this! Sometimes there's these visual glitches too. Also, not only are the episodes out of order, but they're also misnamed, and sometimes the character names in the descriptions don't line up with the names in the actual dub. Complaints aside, I have other notes, like there being a blank version of the intro and end credits after this long black screen after the actual episode. All of them have no sound except for the one in the ostrich episode, so yay, I have an instrumental of the theme song now! But enough talk about France. Let's get into the dub of Bird Squad we all want to see. I don't exactly know when this dub was made. I'm assuming the French dub was made soon after the Italian dub was finished, but what I do know is that the English dub was put on Netflix on February 1st of 2013, so it could be made around that time. I was in 2nd grade when I first saw Bird Squad on this streaming platform, and obviously I loved it. But Bird Squad's presence on Netflix came to an end on May 1st, 2014. We can't have nice things with Netflix, can we? But as much as it's funny to boo Netflix, I think this has more to do with license agreements and stuff. I'm not gonna pretend that I know about patents and all that in streaming services and TV. Don't get me started on whatever's going on with Octonauts. Like, why can't broadcasting and streaming rights be normal? This didn't just happen on Netflix too. Bird Squad used to be on Hulu before getting removed as well, according to some comments on Toposodo's WordPress. Glad to see some parents caring about this show. It turns out that Toposodo doesn't have much control over Bird Squad being broadcasted, since it's Mediatoon that has the rights. I don't know much about how that works since I am a Bird Squad enthusiast, not a media distribution management thingy something expert. About a decade of hoping for the best, and no Bird Squad English dub. Well, not completely no English dub. Mediatoon Distribution's website has a catalog that includes Bird Squad with a synopsis and other information. This organization might actually be a bit familiar to some, as other shows in their catalog include cartoons like The Garfield Show and Donkey Kong Country. But anyway, Mediatoon has the respective trailer on their Bird Squad page that has this.
Wow! Feathers up!
These are the 2 lines we have to the English voice acting, and that's all we have over the many years of the search. It's not bad voice work, so I'm excited to hear the rest of the cast when this darn dub gets found. I'm betting $20 that Willy will have a British accent, $5 if Marius gets a German accent, $100 if this future fandom mischaracterizes them as gay twinks. Speaking of voice acting, what is up with those voice credits? Listing the animal names instead of their actual names? And where on earth are the credits to Nat, Emily, Willie, and Marius' voice actors? Well, what we do know is that all the VAs should have done the voice work at the kitchen in Miami, Florida. I don't exactly know the kitchen's reputation in translation of voice work, and the VAs aren't particularly well known, but hopefully its work on Bird Squad is a step up from the Canadian Cinelume dub of Winx Club. I wonder if we're gonna have a yes, you're what's wrong Magic Winx moment. Most of these VAs should have an IMDb page or resumes of their own for people to find, so I won't get into them too much. I will say that researching Corky's VA, Scott Genn, gave me a headache as I can't tell who's the right one after going through different LinkedIns and databases with his name. Apparently one Scott Genn has a rare form of cancer, and people contributed to a GoFundMe to help pay for his cancer treatment. But that was a few years ago, and I'm not sure if he's still alive or not, but I hope for the former. To ease things off, Humphrey's VA, Amber Joy Lane, cites her role as Humphrey in her resume. Now for Floyd, he's voiced by Oscar Shida, who VA'd in a handful of cartoons and movies, a lot of which I'm not familiar with, except that Noah's Ark movie? Well, there goes the public reception of Bird Squad after this video. While the other furries sing I Will Survive or something, Oscar voices the old Lion King guy who doesn't even come along on the arc.
Attention, l'importante è lavarsi sempre bene i denti.
It wasn't just me who went digging about this English dub and voice acting stuff. There's also my friends on this long search. Nick Lang looked through the VAs like I did, and Micktop did bring up Bird Squad in the Lost Media Wiki community, like the page he made that eventually got removed, and our activity on a thread about the English dub in the Lost Media Wiki forums. Alongside me opening up a post about Bird Squad on the Lost Media Wiki Discord, but we didn't get very far with that. I hope this video gets the traction we need for more people from the Lost Media Wiki community to join the search. I was asking around on other discords, and apparently Bird Squad's English dub also aired on Nick Jr. in Indonesia, but I'm not sure how to find any archives on broadcasting that confirm this. We also found a site, Yedio, that listed the English names for the episodes, but something strange is that the episode descriptions misnamed the characters. Who the heck is Billy? That's not my Humphrey. Now, I wonder if you noticed something about the clips I used for this segment. Future Gaming, if the Bird Squad English dub is mostly lost, how did you get the end credits and stuff in English? Well, the other dubs I'm going to talk about are actually based on the English version. These dubs have been such a big help in uncovering more information about this elusive dub. Remember the Chinese site I mentioned earlier that supposedly has both the English and Chinese dubs? Let's get into that. Some of my most consistently popular videos on my channel are my uploads of the clips I found of Bird Squad's Chinese dub. You guys really thought I put more effort into those than my Bontan region Let's Play, but you know what? Fair. There's only the first episode as a full episode on Bilibili, and Tu Tiao is where I got the clips of the other episodes from, but they don't complete the full episodes. I don't even know if this dub was officially approved or not, as it looks like the team behind the Chinese dub don't have the files to change the text in the intro and outro to be Chinese. As a result, the voice actors of this dub are not credited at all. Speaking of voice acting, I actually really like listening to this dub. Many of the names are retained for the English dub, but there are some changes. Corky is Qie, I think I got that right.
Qi.
Different from the coconut milk lover. Anyways, he sounds like the shonen protagonist, which is pretty entertaining. Now, Humphrey named Xiaofei is so cute in this dub, as he truly sounds like a tiny little fella. And I do wonder if they changed his gender here. He has a brief voice actor change in the Pizza Elephant episode, but stuck to his old voice after that. Floyd is Dada and sounds pretty deep. Nat is Afu and sounds decent. And the rest keep their names. I think there's a trend that the girls get pretty good voice acting. Willie's voice is fire as always. And Marius, He leans more into the French dub side of his voice, but sounds less like an old man with a voice cracked and more like, I don't know. Certainly different from what I expected. There's other notes about the voice performance that I have. Wolfgang's voice here sounds like he's hitting puberty, which is amusing. Speaking of Wolfgang, oh boy, the singing! I neglected to mention that the French dub reuses the Italian audio for the Rondo alla Turca scene, and I wonder if the English dub did its own singing. Whatever the case is, the Chinese dub does the acapella from scratch, and it is not it. You thought Hu Tao's rapping in the English voiceover of the 2023 Lantern Ride was goofy? How about... Aside from that, peak dub. I also really want to be able to download the English and Chinese dubs from this site, as aside from me being unable to make an account, it's honestly our best bet of recovering both dubs. Since I'm not confident that Mediatune would even respond to me or others about putting the English dub out there like with Taratabang. There's other Chinese sites that also have a download, but you have to pay for that, which I am not doing. I wonder how the Chinese dub was even made. Maybe it's made later than the French and English dubs, like around 2019. But I don't really have the best evidence for that besides the 2TL clip upload times. And even though they can't change the text, they have the background and the music audio separate from the English audio, so they can do the voiceover in Chinese. This may also be the case for the next dub I'm gonna talk about, the Persian dub. One of the biggest finds of the Bird Squad fandom's years-long search.
Look at this! There is no way we're gonna—
Thank you, Nick Lang, for finding the link to watch the entire Persian dub. All 26 full episodes. As soon as I heard the news, I went and screen recorded the whole thing, because I could not figure out how to properly download these videos from Apparat, the site they were on. It was pretty frustrating because for some reason when I record on OBS, occasionally there's this blip in the audio, and also the video files are pretty big because I record on 1080p. So many good things came out of this. For one, we get to see all the title cards in English. And like I mentioned before, we have the whole Barcelona episode now to see the plot of. Also, the Persian dub keeps all of the English names for both the main cast and the creatures they save. Before this find, I actually struggled to remember the English names of the ducks, so believe me when I say I was overjoyed to hear Humphrey calling out their names in the first episode. Oh, that reminds me, the voice performance. Okay. As much as I am grateful for the Persian dub being found, this is easily my least favorite dub. Some of the voices are okay, like Penny, Emily, Corky, Floyd, and Marius. Nat's tone is fitting, but he sounds like he's frothing in the mouth. For the ducks, how do I describe their voices? They sound like Wynons. I don't find them particularly pleasing to listen to compared to the other dubs. Now, Humphrey's voice is so unusually deep. You have this little hummingbird who's afraid of so many things, and his Persian voice sounds like this? Do I need to explain why this caught me off guard? And Willie's voice? You have his voice in the other dubs, which the English voice of his should hopefully sound like. And then whoever ran the Persian dub was like, make him sound like a chain smoker.
چی کار داری میکنی؟ What the fuck is this? حالا میشه بپرسم داشتی چی کار میکردی؟
500 cigarettes.
Hearing Willie sound like this is painful. Did they have no one else to do this woodpecker? Even worse, I have to address the squad a la Turca for this dub. Like the Chinese dub, I'm not certain this dub is really official, like look at this poster font. So the Persian dub did the acapella from scratch for similar reasons. You thought the Chinese singing was bad? How about...
KSI. This shit is so fucking ass, bitch! What fucking music?
This is Squad a la Turca if the voice director got drunk. At least the Chinese version sounds a bit like Mozart's piece. Ear torture aside, there's a lot of sounds the characters make that put the French dub to shame. Squad Russian dub got some competition. There's also one more bit I gotta share, and that's the attempted censorship of the ducks. No other dub did that, and here with the Persian version, it's hilarious. It's not anything like editing in a bar or blurring it out. They just cropped the video to not show the butt cracks. This is from episode 2, from the scene before the intro, the feathers up fail, actual feathers up, and anytime you really see those behinds. What's even funnier is that after that episode, they just gave up. Not sure if I can blame them, that's a lot to edit out. This is so surreal. How did we find the Persian dub before the one most of us grew up with? The English dub shouldn't be the freaking outlier of all the dubs we know in terms of barely being found. Well, that's not completely true. There is one dub that existed according to some witnesses, but it's safe to say that it's even more elusive than the English dub. While my Bird Squad homies and I were talking about where the English dub could air on TV, we thought it might have aired on the Central European channel Minimax. After all, the show's listed as part of Minimax's programming. After some more digging, it's more likely that it was the Czech dub of the show that aired there, since it has its own name in that language, Ptaci, though they haven't changed the text in the poster title to match that. Some people in the Lost Media Wiki forums recall its existence and even showed us the airing dates, with the dub debuting in October 2009. Also, there's some recordings of bumpers on Minimax featuring Bird Squad, further proving the dub's presence there. Aside from that, we have no idea what the dub sounds like. There's no trailer that we know of featuring the characters speaking in Czech. There might be a chance it can be recovered if the people running Minimax even respond to people about it, in which they haven't yet. The search for Bird Squad stuff is boundless. What's also boundless is my yapping about the show in its 26 episodes. If you thought all my talk about the freaking dubs in the main cast was a lot, buckle in, because I can't restrain myself.
How people with medical conditions see the world.
You've seen plenty of Bird Squad footage by now, so let's get this out of the way before I ramble about the episodes. The animation. Coming from someone who gets amused by goofy looking old CGI, it doesn't look half bad for being 2000s TV quality, even with some rough looking background modeling and movement. Though there's some animation goops here and there, like with the characters T-posing and teleporting between scenes, and some assets disappearing or being there when it's not supposed to. We got some scrumptious PS2 graphics over here, and this part really looks like an elephant seals moment.
And not a moment too soon, eh, Captain?
Over the course of the series, there's some improvement in the animation, which is not unusual for a production that's been worked on for over a year. Also, I love the little details in character movement and expressions, which adds to the show's humor. Don't pause Bird Squad. Humphrey over here looks like he came straight out of VeggieTales. Not only do I like the sound effects, the background music is also peak. This one is my favorite. Let's go to Feathers Up for a bit. Some characters, particularly Nat and Emily, appear in the Feathers Up sequence even though they're not even in the actual rescue mission. Get back in the blimp! This sequence is likely there for padding time to give animators less work making the episode. I like how the background varies in Feathers Up depending on the location, instead of copy and pasting footage. I can't say the same for other parts in the show where some scenes get reused even though it makes no sense. Now, I like the design style for the character models, most of them anyway. It lends itself to a more cartoony feel, like with the angles and proportions, which suits the comedy action approach Bird Squad has. Maybe it's just me not getting over some of the animal model designs over and above and beyond, but anyways. This stylistic and cartoony character design doesn't translate the best in 3D animation though, with the eyeballs sometimes being visible in the mouth of some characters and stuff. The 2D stuff looks really neat though, and these are the only parts we actually see humans in this show. Bird Squad has this Charlie Brown approach to depicting humans outside of the 2D parts, where unlike the kids, the grown-ups' faces aren't shown, but they still speak normally instead of wah 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 wah. Imagine if we get humans in Octonauts. If you pay close enough attention, some of the backgrounds are actually made in 2D, which actually look pretty good and are fitting for the overall art style, thanks for Cedric Pleneveux. I want to go back to animation reels for a bit. This reel by Fabiana Chatti shows the animation at an earlier stage than the final product. There's one shot that got my attention, where there were pictures of the ducks on the wall of the blimp's upper level, a detail that's mysteriously absent from the final version of the show. Did they plan an episode or scene where these pictures were made but ended up getting scrapped, or could they not implement it after this stage in animation? I've said enough about animation. Let's talk about how broke the Bird Squad is. Besides being fairly disorganized and unprofessional, this crew has no advanced tech whatsoever. The airship that they pilot is stolen as they escape the fire in their park and sought refuge in the blimp that was docked there for advertising toothpaste. The first episode of the show is straight up Grand Theft Blimp, which is one way to make a first impression. I heard there's a bunch of aircraft regulations in real life, but you know, the Bird Squad is technically above the law.
That's actually hilarious.
It's not like the Bird Squad has access to supply networks and digital technology like the Octonauts either. Ain't no way the squad is gonna come up with gups and stuff without significant access to supplies. They gotta have those nano machines, son! Our woodpecker engineer is just working with what he's got. Imagine if you're a creature in need of help, but the Octonauts or Octo agents aren't around and the Bird Squad just happens to be there to save you instead. I wonder if when the Bird Squad gets the resources and funds, they can have a new base modeled after an animal like the octopod and tortuga. And I hope nothing comes around to corrupt it. Also, the airship just has a medical cabinet with nothing in it except for nap for some reason and a Geneva Convention violation. None of these characters are qualified to perform first aid anyway. There's also this tube thing that's specifically designed for Humphrey's part in the Feathers Up sequence, and I have no idea what use that would have for humans. These are the same humans that stored some tiny red firefighter hats in the closet, in a commercial blimp for toothpaste. The dirigible is electronic for navigation and mechanisms, with doors that open with buttons and whatever the cockpit control systems are. Fun fact, although some synopses say that the airship is a Zeppelin, it's actually not, since Zeppelins are rigid with a metal framework to hold its shape, while blimps have their envelope shape be held by internal air pressure. Now, I'll try to keep things brief describing the episodes. I also put in my own commentary because, of course, as a mega Bird Squad fan, I've got stuff to say about them. The first episode should be pretty familiar to you, but to put it in more detail, the blimp was docked at the park for it to have the smile painted on. And Humphrey was scared of it as he didn't know what it was. The park birds and Corky first meet when he explains what an airship is when Penny was about to, but they become more friendly when Corky stays for a bit before going to leave. Then this blimp painter guy, I don't exactly know what his deal was, maybe he hates this park or something, but he throws this matchstick or cigarette, I don't know, at a pile of dry leaves with a sign that literally warns about fires being caused by that. A fire breaks out in the park, with the birds trapped in their enclosures and trying everything they can to escape to no avail. Corky sees this happening and comes back to help, remembering this magpie girl showing off some keys like they're gonna get together, and then borrows some keys to free the birds. Penny also escapes thanks to the ducks, and they all leave by flying the blimp out of there. Later, out at sea, they decide to become the Bird Squad to help other creatures in danger.
Yeah!
Episode 2, the squad practice their routine for operating and leaving the blimp, which does not work out for the first time. Did they meet Ned? I already explained this. Episode 3, the squad finds 2 ostriches in this rural area. Then these ostriches start rapping or something and explain that one of their ostrich friends got left behind, getting his head stuck somewhere in a parking lot, which is not how ostriches work. Penny and the ducks meanwhile find the firefighter hats I mentioned, so the squad got some drip to wear on their rescue missions. They try some stuff to get the missing ostrich free until Corky thinks of tickling the guy to shake him out of there. Cartoon logic at its finest. They tickled the ostrich so hard it shook the planet, gave some people a certain awakening, and freed him. Now they need to return him to his friends, so after almost killing the guy, they drop him off and yay, day saved. Episode 4 takes place in Paris. This is the first time we see the docking sequence of Humphrey and Floyd that also gets reused. Now Humphrey gets epilepsy from the Eiffel Tower. It stops flashing the lights a while after, and then the squad meets Emily. Dawn arrives, so Emily and Nat go on a nocturnal animal version of a date. At the Notre Dame Cathedral, Humphrey got freaked out by a wonderfully rendered gargoyle, and we get this amazing performance from Corky in Italian.
Oh no!
Meanwhile, some kid at the top of the Eiffel Tower drops his cotton candy and it rudely interrupts Emily and Nat's date. Things go from bad to worse as Nat sees an elevator about to crush Emily, who was stuck to the railings. So he gets the bird squad to save his girl. He tried delaying the elevator before Corky thought of chewing something off, which Floyd does to save Emily. About time they thought of that. The French owl is added to the crew and the interspecies romance is official. Episode 5 is arguably the most iconic one in the whole show. I don't know why these people are shipping an elephant by plane, but there's this gag where Floyd's sneeze sounds like an elephant's trumpet. As the squad visits Pisa, Humphrey gets vertigo as he docked the blimp. Then a storm strikes, hitting the plane and scaring the squad, who also hears something loud outside. In the morning, they find something big covered by a parachute. Insert Lord of the Flies joke here, which is revealed to be that elephant named Elton, who ended up on the Leaning Tower at Pisa because the airplane crew realized that having this massive animal on an aircraft is stupid. Now the tower is leaning even more from its weight. The squad does their thing and try pulling him out of there, which obviously did not work. Corky thinks about the time he lost his virginity and told Humphrey to subject Elton to that too, in order to save both his life and one of Italy's architectural icons. After a very long-winded scene of Humphrey flying up the tower, the elephant is free. 10 out of 10 peak. Episode 6 opens up with Corky and Penny fighting over the wheel. Humphrey tries to stop them, but the blimp pops its balloon upon crashing into Elizabeth Tower. Thankfully, it's just a nightmare, but it's stuck with Humphrey, especially when he sees that the squad really are in London. The crew wants to check out the area while Floyd heads to sleep, and Humphrey is still bothered by being near the Big Ben. I already explained this before. Humphrey meets the best character, goes into the tower of hell, Willie passes out from the bells, and Humphrey gets the squad to rescue Willie with the Genshin impact ducts, keeping the clock hands in place to buy some more time. Willie comes out alive and joins the squad to be their mechanic as Humphrey suggested. Also, peak. Episode 7 doesn't include Willie, even though this came right after his debut. Maybe he's just tired after the Big Ben ordeal and slept through this whole mission. The squad arrives in Transylvania with Nat hearing things as he was piloting the ship. Corky, Penny, and Humphrey talk about spooky stuff, and after Nat talks with Emily, he hears those noises again and has to leave. Arriving at this castle, he returns to get the squad to rescue whoever was at that castle, which turns out to be a bunch of bats stuck inside because of a security system. After the squad tried to brute force the window open and failed miserably, Corky remembers a crow whose vocals were so peaked she broke glass. So the squad did that too. How Nat did not get hearing loss is beyond me. But anyways, the window broke and the bats were free. Episode 8 opens up with the ducks doing a gym routine and fighting over it. Fantastic start. Turns out the squad's approaching Krakatoa in Indonesia. As Humphrey mocks the duck's base, the airship has a warning, which my man Willie explains something along the lines of the ship losing air pressure. So the helium canister, or hydrogen, but I really hope it's not the latter, needs to be replaced. Humphrey gives Floyd a loud awakening because the crew needs the strong flamingo to carry the canister over to the valve thingy. The freaking ducks bounce too hard in their exercising, which detaches the air canister, and the crew try to stop it before one final big bounce lets the canister fall into the ocean. Obviously, the rest of the squad is mad, and then a large shadow gets their attention. They look outside and see that it's a whale floating above water. Her name's Wendy and explains that she was minding her own business eating until this canister came down in her mouth, inflating her. Then the wind blows her away to Krakatoa, so the squad does their thing and try to pull Wendy away from the volcano. Corky thinks about getting slapped to let air out, so the ducks do their exercises to make Wendy burp the loudest burp she ever burped. I like how it comes full circle, but guys, it's the ducks. Episode 9 takes place in Holland, one of my favorite episodes in terms of scenery. The duck starts simping over this pelican, Paul, who puts trash in his gular pouch to keep things clean. Meanwhile, Humphrey and Floyd are playing around with Willie's wastebasket, and when he's looking for it, they just hide it for some reason, pin it on Nat, and throw the trash out of the window. The Octonauts would never. Paul sees trash rain, accuses Willie, and Floyd uses a banana peel. No litter, more like yes litter. Paul chases after the peel, and Humphrey, Floyd, and Nat go play with a peel. I don't know what's going on. The peel got Paul stuck on a windmill. Feathers Up happens, and he got free by...
Break out the butter! Lobster Fest has something for every lobster fan, like wild-caught lobster.
He lands in mud, and everyone aside from him finds it funny. By the way, I love this characterization of Willie. How does the squad make Paul feel better? I don't know if this back crow in Corky's memory is himself, but he laughed at the bigger bird and felt better from that. What's even more interesting to me is this little blue hummingbird that appears in the scene, as Humphrey is the only other hummingbird in the show. I love this guy, they're my club shadow. Corky becomes white with flour and everyone laughs and feels better, and he and Paul take a bath. Yeah, what the frick was this episode? Episode 10, I already explained this in the Marius section, I love him. The squad saves the Mozart reference kit with the power of music and Marius gets added to the team. Episode 11, the squad are in Canada, and as Humphrey and Floyd were playing cards, they find the smoldering remains of a forest fire. The blimp crashes into some trees, which gets the attention of everyone on board, so this is the first episode where every member is involved. As Willie goes and sorts out the problem in the engines, the ducks go carry their bath to the sea to refill it, which... ew? Look, seawater smells nasty and can also contain things that cause diseases. I don't know where the squad got this bathtub from, but hey, if it keeps the ducks clean. Humphrey comes over after finding something weird, which he tries to communicate with charades, and ends up telling the squad about a fish out of water. Feathers up goes Spur, and they find a dolphin rather than a fish. The dolphin is named Dylan, and he ended up on this tree after being accidentally picked up by a firefighting plane. Since Dylan is too slippery to be carried, Corky remembered a kid trying to kill him with a slingshot and suggested using a tree like that. Willie finally does something special in this mission, so the rest of the squad pull on the tree with enough force to catapult Dylan back into the ocean. The ducks return with a full tub, the blimp gets fixed, cool episode. Episode 12, the boat gets stuck because something's wrong with the steering while Humphrey and Floyd bicker over checkers. After a visit by Nat, the ducks go to refill the bath of water with buckets. I really like this joke here that are roughly translated.
Une question me traverse l'esprit. Elle se déplace. Ne se fait-elle pas à l'horizontale? Mais nos 5 amis sont nés.
Elles en ont juste entendu parler.
Nat tries taking a bath with the duck, which turns black. As it turns out, a little squid caused this to happen, which got the duck screaming even more. His name is Will, I think? Trying to make the most of the Chinese and Persian dubs here. He ended up in the bath because his brother Cornelius, I think, got stuck in the boat's propeller. So Will looked around for help and got picked up by the ducks. Penny and Marius get to shine in this mission, as Penny can dive in the water to try to help Cornelius, and Marius listens to the humans on board to figure out what's going on. With information with Marius, Corky thought of Humphrey and Floyd's chase from their arguments. Penny goes back to make the bigger squid mad and get him to chase her around the propeller, untangling his tentacle. Things get cleared up and the Squid Brothers have a nice stay on the bathtub before returning to the ocean. Episode 13, the squad are in the Alps, spotting a deer looking for something. His name's Dean, who hasn't seen his brother, Derek, for a while. The squad soon find a missing deer, who's hanging from a ski lift chair because he got caught on it as he was running with Dean. Fun fact, I think this is the very first Bird Squad episode I ever saw. The ski lift was just vivid in my mind. Tell me in the comments what was the first episode of Bird Squad you've seen. Floyd plays on the ski lift like a doofus and nearly makes Derek fall off. Penny brings up her circus lore, where there was a net to catch falling acrobats, but this didn't work out with the ducks handling it. With the ski lift having 2 cables that run opposite ways, Corky thought of moving them like a clothesline. By the way, we got another animation goof with Penny pulling the steering wheel back, which is odd considering the blimp is going forward to pull the cable line, but then she pushes it forward in another scene. Floyd helps out with the pulling, which manages to get Derek over some soft snow before he falls. Also, check out Humphrey's laughing at the ducks in French.
Oh, ça au moins, c'est un joli coup de filet.
And also Floyd, what's going on there? Episode 14, the squad are in Bavaria, Germany, and Willie wants to show off a new gadget. It didn't work out very well and he wants some help working on it, but Floyd and Humphrey want to go out instead. The two meet a store called Stephanie. Some of you guys may be familiar with the fact that I am a Happy Days fan. First Wolfgang and now Stephanie, aka the mother of Stacy the Summoner. Stephanie the Stork is looking for a chimney to keep her eggs warm, but most of the house chimneys are occupied. She parts ways with Humphrey and Floyd, and after finally finding a spot for a nest, she has this whole metal song about stork eggs and babies, which goes hard. Willie is still looking for help to no avail, and Corky spots Stephanie flying around the smoking chimney with her nest, which is actually a smokestack. She realizes the danger of these smokestacks, and she can't get near enough to her nest to save her eggs. The rest of the squad couldn't get near the nest either, especially with the threat of fire. So Corky thought of the time he and Humphrey saw a chef take pizza out of an oven with a pizza peel the other day, which Willie's map planner could be used for. Floyd screws it up when he thinks about pizza, so the ducks save the day again and bring back Stephanie's eggs. Maybe she'll be a good mother, or make those stork chicks jump like in real life. Episode 15, the squad are at the Sahara Desert, mirages and all, and Willie and Marius are working on a radio. After some birds boogie to the radio, Humphrey, Floyd, and the ducks go play in the sand. The radio can also access the weather forecast, which Marius can understand and warns about a sandstorm, which Diana and Dawn get lost in. The two wander around and hear a voice near a pyramid, thinking it's a mummy, but it's just a dromedary camel named Charlie, stuck under the sand. Marius warns about a new storm coming soon, Floyd slaps the radio, and the crew end up finding the missing ducks, who tell them about the stuck camel. Corky thought about how a new storm could blow away all the sand from Charlie, so the birds started a whole sandstorm on their own, which freed him but got the rest pretty stuck. I think they could free themselves easier because they're less weighty. At the end, they chill in the blimp for refuge for the next natural sandstorm. Episode 16. Two porcupines who I can't make out the names of argue about if ducking or jumping is the best way to not get hit by traffic. The best way to not get hit is to stay off the road. The ducks announce they made some special bread, which the squad gets excited for. They say fougasse in French, and for Italian, I think it's focaccia. I don't know what they say in English, but anyways, they have a whole number about this bread, which turns out to be absolutely nasty. If there was a kitchen on the blimp, the ducks burnt it down.
Welcome to Gordon Ramsay's Chef Blast. Is that your best?
Meanwhile, a big truck heads for the porcupines. One ducked while the other jumped and got knocked flying through the sky, hitting the blimp. Corky gets Willie to figure out what's going on, that the blimp is deflating. They find the porcupine stuck to the balloon, make an oopsie, and then use the nasty bread thing to plug the hole. The porcupine reunites with his homie.
Okay.
Episode 17 takes place in Barcelona, with two seagulls who I think are named Julia and Julio, I don't know who is who, spotting the airship. They love racing each other and bump into the duck's bathtub. After Humphrey and Floyd dock the blimp, the seagulls challenge the bird squad to a race, where they bring the right flag back to the starting place, which the ducks agree to show who's faster. Beach volleyball! Willie's clock shows up for the first time, with him and the rest of the crew, Emily and Marius missing out, spectating the competition. Diana appeared to win, but apparently she got the wrong flag. The other ducks come back to tell them that the yellow-beaked seagull got stuck in the tugboat's funnel, so the squad has to go rescue them. Nat couldn't get the seagull out of there, so Corky remembers a crane thing that could lift up heavy things, and used Diana's flag to help the ducks, and Nat carried the seagull out of there. At the end, the seagulls let the ducks keep the flag out of things, and we don't get to see those flag scarps ever again. Episode 18, the blimp is at the North Cape, which is too cold for Corky as well as the ducks. Floyd and Humphrey are doing a race in the snow and meet some reindeer, Ronnie and Roz, who look like good homies but also argue with antler battles. The squad's just chilling till they see the reindeer duke it out near an ice cliff about to break, and even worse, the antlers are stuck. Corky remembers this goofy puzzle and gets Willie to untangle the antlers, freeing Ronnie and Roz so they can escape just in time. Afterwards in the credits, they get carried by the ducks. Episode 19, the intellectual birds talk about Venice and stuff, which looks really pretty here. The rest want to go play hide and seek, so the ducks, Humphrey and Floyd are out of commission for most of the episode. Emily and Nat hang out somewhere and meet a lost rhino named Rick, I think, who's looking for a boat. Corky and Penny are also enjoying the sights together until they see Rick on the gondola trying to get to Africa. They give him the directions, and Willie was all like, yeah, that rhino's not making it to Africa, and we get this whole bed thing that I mentioned before. I am so normal about these two. Anyways, Rick is at risk of drowning, so the squad who are still on the blimp go try to help. Though, is Marius even trying? Corky thinks of nets being used to lift fish out of the water, so Penny helps save Rick's life. What a Chad. Though, how the frick did they get that rhino on the blimp? I don't blame Humphrey for his reaction to that information. Episode 20, Humphrey and Floyd do silly things with a bucket and meet an albatross named Albert. The ship is approaching Easter Island, and Humphrey gets jump scared by a moai.
Reprends ta respiration et dis-nous ce qu'il y a.
The squad goes to check it out, and Penny explains moai lore, and Floyd goes MIA to make a moai of himself. Albert says hello, goes to sleep, and an earthquake happens, scaring off the squad. Things calm down until Humphrey lands on a moe and it starts leaning and knocking down the other heads like dominoes, which shouldn't happen because they have whole bodies on the ground. But anyways, Albert is in danger. This man probably ate something crazy because they can't carry him out of the way, so Corky thinks of humans knocking balls with a rolling ball. They put the ducks to use and Albert is saved. Doris lost an earring, but all is good. With the moais being set up again, the earring was found, and Floyd came back after leaving his mark on the island. Episode 21 opens up with music that reminds me of Era of the Wild's Kakariko Village. There's a celebration going on in Tokyo with a bunch of balloons that Humphrey and Floyd collect. The ducks don't appreciate this, and they head to some garden near Mount Fuji to relax. There, they meet a sea turtle named Trixie, but I prefer her French name, Tomoko. She ended up there because humans took her out of the sea, and she fell out of a car into this garden. Not only does she need to get home, her mini M&M-looking babies also need to be in water too. The ducks come back and tell the crew about it, so Corky thought of balloons keeping things in the air. So that's what they'll use the balloons Humphrey and Floyd collected for. Peak strats. Now that the turtles are above sea, they pop the balloons to send them underwater, and Floyd and Humphrey get to keep the last balloon, which doesn't come up again. Episode 22 starts off with this crocodilian falling off the window of a skyscraper. The squad are at New York City, and as they were docking the ship, Humphrey got jumped by a rather unique take on the Statue of Liberty. We do not talk about that scene. But anyways, Humphrey got beef with the ducks and flies outside. The smart birds, except for Willie, I wish he was here, spot Humphrey and make a comparison to King Kong. Floyd, being Floyd, thought they were calling Humphrey a gorilla. Humphrey goes to another skyscraper and gets jumped by the crocodilian from before. Wait, is this foreshadowing? This is Andy, who originally came from the Mississippi River, and he's an alligator, making it really clear he's not a crocodile, though his design says otherwise. Thanks, Wildcrats. He ended up here because he got too big for the apartment he was kept in since his childhood, and now he's in danger of falling off. The squad comes to the rescue, but of course, the ducks are cringe and don't want to touch this so-called gator. Corky thought of firefighters using a life net to catch people from dangerous heights, so they used the blimp for that, and go take him back home. Episode 23 takes place in Normandy, where Penny goes for a swim, and I will say that the water refraction effects look really good. She got caught by a net, but three crabs named Chandler, Craig, and Calvin, who act like the three musketeers, free her. Floyd and Humphrey want to play hide and seek with Nat, as this port looks like a lovely place to do that. Younger me would always associate these ports with this episode when I went on cruise ships, especially with the colored crates. Nat, being the seeker, goes looking around for those two, but ends up finding the crabs holding up a crate to not be crushed. They were saving a bunch of shrimps right before a crate was lowered onto them. Nat gets the squad, Willie appears because plot, and they try to figure out how to lift the crate enough for the crabs to escape. Willie is based, suggesting the ducks can lift the lever enough, but that doesn't work. Corky thought of humans lifting up a truck with his tool, a jack, so Willie gets it and lifts up the crate so the crabs can escape. Humphrey and Floyd come back, winning the hide and seek game, but they missed out on that whole rescue. Episode 24. Okay, I have really mixed feelings on this episode. It starts with Humphrey dreaming until the alter ego I mentioned a while back comes over and mocks him for being a coward, which gives me some angst material. In reality, when he spots a truck full of what looks to be pandas, he's determined to prove his alter ego wrong and calls for an emergency. Everyone except Willie, because of course, was trying to figure out what's going on, especially since the pandas weren't responding. The ducks and Floyd throw the truck off course, and it turns out the pandas were just plushies. After the driver got bloody pressed, Corky, Penny, and Marius were laughing about Humphrey's big oopsie, which definitely does not help the situation. Oh, by the way, they're in China. Humphrey and Floyd explored the Great Wall and find an actually alive panda named Percy, I think. Bro's exhausted from hunger as he's been taken far away from his bamboo forest. The blimp can't get to the forest fast enough to get him fed, so Humphrey goes off on his own to get the bamboo. He returns the next day with it, and just look at this poor guy! He's nearly freaking dead so he can save this panda, and goes out for more soon after! Y'all owe my man an apology! Frick! Episode 25. Okay, it's debatable which of the last two episodes actually is the finale, but I'll go for this one as the penultimate episode. Penny gets everyone to practice their feathers up, but it looks like Willie's missing. He's busy augmenting his chair to launch faster, and it looks like he'll be busy for a while perfecting it. Maria says his last words for this episode before getting the milk, and Penny identifies the location as Machu Picchu in Peru. Humphrey and Floyd leave for some reason again, and Nat goes out at night, meeting a condor named Suilo? I can't make it out very well from Chinese and Persian. Let's see what the French dub description calls her. My mental illness aside, the condor, being not nocturnal, is having trouble looking for her egg. Nat and Emily help find it for her, and she nearly loses it again. Stephanie and
Consuelo.
Mom off anyone? Penny finds her a new home, and would you look at that? This egg's got Breath of the Wild physics and somehow does not break as it rolls into some tracks. You all just witnessed this egg falling off. How are you not reacting? Even worse, a train is headed straight for that egg, and you can't fly fast enough to get it. Corgi has no time to remember stuff, so he gets Nat to use Willie's chair to launch him with that extra power and catch the egg in time. So the squad makes sure the condor has the egg safe. I wish Marius was there to share some parenting experience, and Floyd and Humphrey come back. He actually kinda liked this episode as it didn't rely on Corky's memories. Episode 26. Humphrey and Floyd play some darts, and Penny and Corky get a close call from crashing the blimp. Some accident happens, and as it turns out, a bird got in the engine.
Whoa, did you see that? Yeah, ugly.
This is actually the worst design in the show. Even more so than the ducks. Why on earth did he have to look like that?
Ew, what is that?
Combustion ab build, but that'd be insulting to the Torchic line. So this member of the family Columbidae is named Christopher. This ugly pigeon needs to deliver this message urgently, but not only is he in no shape to fly, he seems to have lost his memory. What kind of finale is this? So to help Christopher, Corky thought of landmarks that help remind him where to go. Corky remembered seeing the Big Ben on this way, which, okay, why on earth doesn't this finale have Willie in it? Justice for the most based character. The main idea for this episode is them revisiting places they've been as Christopher remembers them one by one, which is definitely fitting for a finale. They go from London, Holland, Paris, Vienna. Bro, why didn't Marius appear at least in this scene? Come on! And I want to see Wolfgang again. Pisa, and eventually the place that looks to be where they met the ostriches, where there's a crow with the exact same model as Corky. As it turns out, this is Corky's brother, or cousin, I don't know, named Caleb? This episode disappointed me in a few ways, but at least we got another Happy Days thing. Yay! So the message seems to be related to these two, like for a celebration of sorts. What I'm celebrating is the damn pigeon getting out of my sight.
Le plus important, c'est de toujours garder le sourire.
And that's it for this show.
Psych!
How could I say that when there used to be a Bird Squad website? Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore, but McTop Goat shared a screenshot of what its homepage looked like on the Wayback Machine. Chiara Pori, also the GOAT, posted a compilation of screenshots of the site on her blogspot for more detail. There's a page for the characters, dirigible map, episode list, wallpaper downloads, whatever Novita means, and what I think is games? The Taratabang site's idea of games is this memory card thing, so I'm not expecting Bird Squad open world or anything. Anyways, I wish I could experience this site proper. Maybe it'll be remade when we get the attention of Toposodo members, I don't know. Speaking of Toposodo, I should share some more findings. Marco B. Liazzi, what did you mean by Taratabang being conceived when Toposodo was working on Bird Squad's pilots? There's so many possibilities to what that pilot could have been. Maybe it ended up being one of Bird Squad's actual episodes, like with Wildcrat's Polar Bears Don't Dance or Cyber Chase's The Pottlefield case, but I think there should be a notable difference in animation for that to be the case. And according to this article, Penny and Nat are actually later additions as the project was being developed, so I got a feeling they didn't show up in the pilot. Or at least, they look really different. There's older concept art I found where some of the characters look different. Willie's got smaller eyes, Penny's beak is orange and actually has blue eyes, Humphrey looks like Nightmare Fuel, so glad they changed that, and Marius got pinkish glasses, which might be because of rendering, I don't know. You could say he got rose tinted glasses. Rosy vision. He You might also notice that in this particular concept art, besides Penny not being there, the title is called Bird's Band instead of Bird Squad or La Banda Volante. Maybe a change because they didn't want to make the show appear like a musical or something, I don't know. There's another picture found on a PDF from Dreamwall, a studio in Belgium that also worked on Bird Squad, which features Corky, Floyd, Marius, and Humphrey in their old designs being confronted by a human. And I'm not sure if it's just concept art or an actual visual from the pilot. Thanks Nick Lang for bringing this to me on Tumblr. Also, a local submission to Broken Saw allegedly came from Bird Squad's pilot from a master tape, so if that's true, it's possible the pilot can be recovered. And it's gonna be really ambitious of me, but I hope other production content of Bird Squad is found, like actual storyboards and more concept art. I think we got a chance though, with a bigger community that I hope this video leads to. It's not just me and my Bird Squad homies in Nick's Discord who care. When I dropped some of my earlier Bird Squad stuff, particularly the out of context one, I got a bunch of people talking about how they remember this show, like having watched it on Netflix and even making fan works when they were little. It's also really nice to find people asking about the show outside of my channel, like on TV Tropes and Reddit. During my earlier Bird Squad image searches, I came across this edit of Humphrey, the profile pic of a Bird Squad fan TikTok account that for some reason has no videos. Like, come on, let me see your Bird Squad stuff! Who even is this person anyway? I want to meet them, even though I'm not making a TikTok account. Well, English dub found or not, I'm very happy to talk about Bird Squad with people and show off the stuff I made for it. After all, the Bird Squad fan content I'm most familiar with is my own. Here, this is probably the earliest Bird Squad thing I remember making, back in 2nd grade. Yeah, it's basically George and Harold's comic and Captain Underpants and the Perilous Flight of Professor Poopy Pants, but with added characters. As you can see, there's my boy Humphrey, Corky, a duck, and this odd-looking bird who obviously isn't Floyd. I don't remember who this is supposed to be. It could be a long-lost Bird Squad OC of mine. There's also how I drew Willy back then, and Marius. Bro got the guts to laugh at Professor Poopy Pants. Not everyone survives an encounter with him. Throughout the comics I made in my life, Woody Woodpecker and Peso are also there with me, and in my imagination, we would make comics together like George and Harold, even making some that shouldn't exist if I was still in 2nd grade. I don't have all of my comics I made with me, so QG Gaming lost media! I do remember making this Captain Underpants comic in 3rd grade where there's evil versions of Corky, Penny, and Floyd terrorizing London. Yeah, it's based on that opening scene in episode 6. Anyways, the waistband warrior goes to stop them, and I vividly remember a lightning tornado appearing at the cliffhanger. It was obviously Stormy. Darcy would have made more sense since this big bad, I think, is controlling these evil birds with their mind. And that's all I remember from that. There's also these magnets I got from Los Angeles because I love Humphrey and Floyd. Kinda banged up, but it's expected from having them for over a decade. I could go into the stories I made up outside of making comics, but that'll give this video an extra hour or so. The Humphrey lore in the Catherine cinematic universe goes so deep. He was there before I even knew about Woody and Peso to include them. Humphrey's alter ego is also part of the lore. Apparently there's clones of him and he does bad things, obviously. The Humphrey fixation doesn't end there, as a consistent thing about my comics is that a trophy of a hummingbird is always present in my made-up principal's office. And this flying base hummingbird fountain is literally season 2 red fountain with a giant hummingbird statue on it. Oh yeah, this was in my do-it-yourself diary, which is a perfect encapsulation of my 2nd and 3rd grade years. Humphrey's got magic powers or something, and he's the mascot of a sports team alongside Digit. I think the machos part came from Humphrey saying he wants to be macho instead of the coward his alter ego calls him, but I could be misremembering the English dub. Oh, speaking of the English dub, apparently I haven't watched this show for a while because it took me until October in 3rd grade to realize it's gone from Netflix. At least the Octonauts were there for me. Look, all I had was old school Netflix and PBS Kids. My family could not afford cable. I thought I could never see Bird Squad again, until in 11th grade when I revisited my childhood shows for an English project. That was when I found out about the French dub in that playlist, and I ate that up as I experienced most of the episodes again. I didn't get much traction on Tumblr about it, obviously, but that's where I met Nick Lang, who's arguably gone deeper than I did. I posted stuff on YouTube, met Micktop there and other people, and that's the simplest I can put how the Bird Squad fandom came to be, or at most a small revival of it. it. The chances of Bird Squad getting another season or a reboot are as slim as an atom. The studio behind it is defunct, and Bird Squad has virtually no form of merchandise, which I realize is a really important way for many TV shows to keep going. Neither it or Taratabon got any DVD releases either. A second season for Bird Squad would be really nice if done right, and I got some ideas for episodes. But I'm not sure if my writing style can give these episodes the same silliness and camp vibes as the original series. I want a Bird Squad crossover with Octonauts or Wildcrats so bad, but you know how convoluted patents are. But if they were to happen, Wildcrats would be interesting since there's the villains, and Bird Squad never really had major antagonists. I prefer Bird Squad without villains, but I want to see these birds throw hands with these bad guys. Heck, I want to see them on Winx Club Season 4 to put those wizards in their place. I find it funny how Bird Squad went for 26 episodes without once showing a dog or cat, which an Octonauts crossover could rectify. Actually, for a show called Bird Squad, there's no parrots at all, nor any chickens or peacocks. I love Galliforms, I want more of them in Season 2. I could go on and on about my creature wishlist pipe dream, but what I would really like in a second season are my questions about food and character absences being addressed, as well as some more friendship moments between characters so they really grow as a team. This little show deserves a lot better. If you've watched this whole video up until this point, I'm really surprised, but thank you so much for showing your interest in Bird Squad. There's a bunch of more things I would like to share about this show, which is a testament to how much I am engrossed in this thing. Bird Squad, as well as the search for the English dub, matters so much to me. Not so much because I'm nostalgic, but because I genuinely think it does a good job at what it does. Being an entertaining, simple, but creative show that would make you smile at least once. Not once did I think it's a hollow product designed to sell things to kids or someone's ego trip. I will always love this show despite all of its imperfections, and obviously it can't compete with the other things I like that are so much more popular. But that doesn't matter, because its contributions to my childhood and imagination makes it one of the things I am most passionate about, and I'm sure its creators are fond of it too. I have not mentioned this before, but in my early days of working on this video, I found out that Marco B. Liazzi passed away in October 2023. Not getting the chance to meet and talk about La Banda Volante with him will probably be one of the biggest regrets of my life. He looks like such a good man with the values he had. I don't exactly know how Fabrizio Bondi is doing right now, or what the state of their new show for Riot Kids is, but as I can't cross this language barrier between the US and Italy so easily, the best I can do is talk about the great things their studio made, and hope for the best that the work I grew up with is recovered and can be enjoyed by everyone today. I don't want to let these things be forgotten.